The aim of the Green Finance Initiative in London is to bring together many strands of thinking between the public side, the government side, which has a clear energy, a clean energy policy, and the private side, bringing the money, the banks, the institutional investors and the insurers together to discuss how to make this change, this transition happen. Many of the banks today in London are extremely interested in how they perceive the risk of climate change in their activities. Climate change is difficult to assess because you're talking about a 20-year, 30-year risk, whereas most banks are considering 2 years, 3 years, 5 years in their portfolios. So how to measure that risk and to take account of it is very much the discussion today. Take one example in the car industry. The car industry is now grappling with a change from petrol and diesel through to electric or hybrid. Banks lend their money. Suddenly it's a bigger risk for banks. So they have to take this into account, both climate stress, the climate crisis, and politicians' reaction to that when they're looking at all their portfolios. It's not just in cars, it's in energy of course, but it's also in distribution, it's in shipping. Some banks are now talking a new language, the Swedish banks, the French banks, increasingly the British banks. They're talking and looking at climate stress in a new way. This is fascinating for bankers. Bankers have a massive opportunity to do the right thing, to do good, to show that they're doing the right thing, as well as participate in good, profitable business going forward. That's the opportunity. The message is smell the coffee, because look at the concerns that people have now about plastics in the oceans or about immigration into Europe, about many factors which are either a result of drought or famine or can be a result of plastics in the oceans, make people think this isn't good, this isn't right. We have to have a new policy. So the people, I think, are the driver for all change that happens in society. And if you look at what the main concerns are, with the rise of the Green Party in Europe and the very strong rise in financial activity around green finance products, certainly in the UK, certainly in Europe, then you see that people are really driving in the direction of wanting to have a more responsible approach to how the climate is managed. That's the basics. This move, this understanding that we have to be more careful, we have to be more considerate about the environment we have. I think this is a universal, global understanding. And that the drive that people have inside themselves is now giving expression to how we buy a car, how we use plastic bags, what sort of food we are eating, whether it's sustainable food and good food. How much red meat do we eat nowadays by comparison with before? The rise of veganism, many things that are coming in society to change the way we live. And what we bankers are saying is we want to follow that from the finance side.